Good morning, Twin Cities, and welcome to Miss Margaret Live. Let me make sure because sometimes I be wondering with this audio. If you're like, she's not on the screen, where is she? Da, 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 da. I know last week I was on the screen at first because I was like, my background was not backgrounding. But today, honestly, y'all, I am so tired. This legislative session is whooping my ass. Like, I'm not even finna lie to y'all. Okay, I'm exhausted. This is probably one of the most exhausting, draining, sometimes exhilarating times of my life. To be honest, this session has been way more stressful than I thought it was going to be. If you're not here in Minnesota, I'm talking about um the Minnesota 2024 legislative session. And so it's been crazy. It has been crazy. I've been talking about it a lot. So y'all already know the deal. If you don't know, we last year we passed a bill that would make it so that SROs, security guards, anyone who's affiliated with the police basically would not be able to use prone restraint in schools, which is basically the same type of restraint that killed or unalived George Floyd, that unalived Eric Garner. Even if you look at Elijah McClain, right? All of those situations had to do with prone restraint. We've seen other several situations of that happening, and particularly students and children being harmed, and some resulting in some of the results being fatal. And so we've been going back and forth. Last week was the first week of the session, and so it's been a lot of different hearings, a lot of different meetings. And while there are certain things that are being adjusted as far as ensuring that the community is involved and engaged engaged with what they call the model policy that would come if this particular legislation would be billed. The model policy is basically like an overhead or kind of general guideline that everyone is like police are supposed to follow. And so we would be a part of that process, and as far as being our input and stuff like that. But the main thing that we want is so they can't use prone restraint, period. And that's what we're not really finding headway on. So it's been stressful. I'm not even gonna hold you. It's been stressful. Last year, you guys can hear my little. I was trying to adjust something on my page. Last year was so optimistic. We had the trifecta going on. We um we had we had universal meals passed. We had the bill that I'm talking about that passed last year that we're fighting to hang on to and to protect. We just had so many things that just passed. But now, we could possibly see all that be reversed. So, if you are in the state of Minnesota, make sure you contact your local representative, whether it's your local representative, contact your senator, and let them know how you feel about this bill. Obviously, everyone has their own opinions as far as whether and that student resource officer should be in schools. That's not what this is about. But regardless whether they're in a school or not, the whole thing is that if they're in schools, security officers, SROs, and those who are like need to have specific guidelines for to ensure that they are doing things that are not harming our kids. So anyway, we're going to kick this up and pick this up a notch. As you could see, okay, reminder, the 24th, y'all, the 24th, do I have a live show for you. So February 24th, pull up to Gravy Babies in St. Paul, y'all. It's going to be a show. It's going to be a show. At first, I was like, I'm going to just do just the straight interview, right? I have author Alicia Price. She's the author of It's Not Complicated, okay? And it's a book which is basically a guide for mothers in their co-parenting journey. At first, I was just gonna do that interview, but then I was like, it's not a Miss Margaret Live event if I don't Miss Margaret Live. Okay, so I hit up comedian Bianca Denny. I was like, I really, really want a comedian. Her head was popping up in my name for a while now. I don't wait until the last minute to ask her. But I was kind of watching to see with the different events that she has going on, if there were any that popped up on the same date as mine. Well, I didn't see any popping up. I was like, okay, let me go in here and see if I can get her to do the host this event, because it's just easier to have someone host it than you trying to host your own event. Um, So she's gonna be hosting the event. So you know it's gonna be hilarious. You know it's gonna be hilarious. And so we're gonna do that. We're gonna play a game. I can't tell you the title of the game, but it's low-key ratchet. And so you have a chance to win prizes. You can win a free copy, possibly of her book, of Alicia Price's book, and some other things that I won't announce yet. But it's going to be a really, really, really good show. And so I'm getting excited. I'm excited about it now. Before I was kind of like stressed because I'm trying to pull things together. This is why I need a team, y'all. I need a built-in team. So when I say I want to do this, they say okay, and they just make it happen. Um, but it's gonna be a really good show. So 2 p.m. at Gravy Babies. There's no ticket. Your entry is you purchasing food item, drink item, whatever from Gravy Babies, and then a portion of those proceeds will go to my content studio. So enough about that. We have a really dope show today. I have the love engineer herself, Alex Merritt. Okay, now she has been a friend of the show. Okay, so she's not new to the Miss Margaret live show. I had her on the show back when I was on KFAI, so it's always cool to have people who have come on my show before, who have supported. And y'all just kind of saw me going. I meant to take y'all not to see all that, but anyway, who have supported and continue to be supporters of Miss Margaret Live. So she will be on later on in the episode, and also too. So this is why you got to tune in every week, because I announce, is who who won from last week. So y'all see I'm tired. Y'all can tell my energy is kind of low today, but I want to make sure I give y'all a show, okay? Okay, these legislators ain't gonna stop no show. I don't remember what I was even gonna say, y'all. I don't even remember what I was gonna say. This is how out of it I am. When we're talking about things that affect our kids, it can be very draining. But anyway, basically, Alex has come on the show before, and particularly she has this self-love challenge that she's doing right now, which I thought was super dope. And I really wanted to really talk about that because, of course, she and I, you'll hear us talk about this later. For my generation, this generation is different. My generation, a lot of us, no one, the words self-care, self-love are not words that people really talked about or used. You know what I mean? I feel like I was in had a lot of people around me and a lot of things that I was involved in that kind of instilled some of that, but not just like just being the boldness to talk about self-love. And what does that really look like? What does that really mean? So much. I remember when people used to talk about self-care initially, it was always stuff like self-care day. I'm at the salon. I'm getting my nails done. I'm getting my hair done and all this type of stuff. And while those things can be therapeutic, I kind of look at those more like maintenance. You know what I mean? I know I'm off though when my nails ain't done. So that does kind of, affect my mental health. But really want to start talking about self-care and self-love, you know what I mean, in a new way. So we're going to talk about her self-love challenge that she has been doing this past month. That I think is really, really dope. So, like I said, I'm really low energy right now. And so I'm just going to talk about just a couple things that we really need to talk about that's going on. Whether it's here in Minnesota, there's some stuff that so many celebs have been doing that's been pissing me off, because y'all been up in arms for a little bit too long about everything, about Usher's Super Bowl performance, about Beyonce's country music album, Boosie's dumbass. I always want to put his misogynistic chime in there. So we're gonna get to some of that stuff. But first, of course, we gotta talk about what's going on in our neck of the woods. Okay. So some of y'all, if you have a student that goes to St. Paul Public Schools, then you got this email this morning stating that St. Paul Public Schools, well, specifically the St. Paul Federation of Educators, voted to authorize a strike. Now, you remember SPPS teachers and fellow educators, they just went on strike when I was working in SPPS. So that was like 2020, 2021. Actually, it was March 2020. I remember, because I had just started working there, and then they decided to go on strike. I was like, oh my God, he's got this job. And when they go on strike, everybody gets a pink slip. Everyone gets these slips saying they're going to lay you off due to the strike because of whatever. I can't remember what it was. It's kind of just like a protocol thing. Also, make sure if you are tuned in make sure you drop down in the chat, say, hey, say where you're tuning in from, okay? Because not only does that push this, okay, and get this show out to more people, but that's how you win. So as I said, I'm going to be announcing actually probably tomorrow who won last week's. I was going to mention it yesterday, but this session got me kind of off, so I didn't mention it. But that's how you win stuff. You have to engage to win. So yeah, so you see here they said they voted. So what that means too is if you didn't just hear what I said, if you are tuned in right now, make sure you drop down in the chat, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, say hey, say where you're from. That's how you win prizes. Last week we gave out a $30 Visa gift card. Okay, so I know if you like me and you a parent, any type of money, okay, that's just coming your way that you ain't gotta go clock in for. Okay, I'm here for that. So make sure you drop down in the chat. Make sure you share this show, share the live, share, push it out to more people, because I go back and I go to see who is engaged, who is shared, and then that's how you get entered into the drawing to win. Okay, so make sure you drop down, say where you're at, say where you're from. So back to this. So as I said, at St. Paul, they voted to authorize a strike. Now, what this means is it does not mean that the strike is going to happen right away. What it means is that there's still time. I think they have about, I think, 10 days to continue negotiating. But basically what it's saying is we plan to strike. If these negotiations do not go as planned, we're going to strike. So what do you all think about this? One thing I will say is, when the last time the strike happened at SPPS, it only lasted for few days. I mean, I think it started on Monday. We were back in the building, not students, but all the staff. I think we were back in the buildings by Thursday, and then everyone was back in school the next week. Now NPS, when they went on strike a year or two ago, they were out, I want to say, for like 2 weeks. So what I will say is this, and then we'll move on. When I was working in the schools and they authorized the strike, I know that the things that the teachers were asking for were very basic, very basic things that they just should have, whether it's higher wages, more mental health support. There were a lot of different things that I was like, yeah, they should have that. They shouldn't have to go on strike. And I know there are people who, like, during that time, the kids, they were all like at different, like, not all different, but depending on where you lived, then you would go to like a certain building where they had people like myself who were working and the people who weren't on strike, who's I can't remember what they called, basically division was not on strike. And so we were there with the kids all day doing different activities with them, making sure they were fed, of course, all the things that they would normally get in a school day besides, curriculum. Um and I know some people, of course, were saying, well, kids need to be in school out. Well, kids also need safe environments, you know what I mean? And they need teachers who have what they need to be able to provide the best education. And so I don't know exactly what all is in this and the things that they're asking for, but I can just say from the last time they went on strike, I know there were things that they did not get in that I felt like that should have been a no-brainer. Um and so and so so yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they're able to get all this um rectified so that they don't have to go on strike and just have a whole disruption to the school year again. But I definitely there's a lot of teachers who are in SPPS who I know who went on strike the last time, and I did not blame them one bit for why they went on strike. And what's interesting about this too, and I can't find it, is that I found some article that Minnesota has been rated like one of the best places for children, or like to raise children, or something like that, which I'm sure so many people, considering what I just was talking about with the SRO bill, um and all that type of stuff, who would definitely disagree. Like, what kids? Well, usually they're talking about white kids. um and so, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I'm trying to find it here, which is why you don't see. Here it is. I was like, where is it where I saw that? Now, and I didn't look too far into it. As you could see, like, I didn't even crop this. I just took this straight from Facebook. Um, and so let me read it here. So, Minneapolis is the second city in the United States to be named a child-friendly city, putting it just behind Houston, Texas, which received the designation in 2023. I looked into this a little bit. You can look into the article, as you can see, it's posted on Fox 9. It kind of goes through how or what they judge things on certain plans. I know child safety was in there, but like I said, there's a bunch of kids right now who would, people probably who would highly, highly disagree with that. When I was growing up, I definitely thought that Minnesota was a good place to raise a family. I definitely thought that. Um, and there are a lot of things here that people would, probably also agree with that, as well. But we're not going to play like there's not a lot of things that have been going on. A lot of things, especially, have come to light in the last few years that would definitely make this assessment hard to believe. Um, and so, um, I'm sorry. The reason why y'all keep this, people keep messaging me about stuff with the legislative session, but I'm also like, people just, I don't know, be posting stuff, acting weird. With this event that I'm doing for co-parenting successfully, it's interesting how many men have hated on it. And I didn't even write the book, but just the fact that I'm even doing the event, they mad. Child. Anyway, so yeah, this is one of those things. Let me know what y'all think about this, because I was like, yeah, all right, I don't know about all that. Because another thing, I wonder if I could pull up to. I have a clip that I wanted to play for y'all. It might be this, because this is a student who was testifying. Oh, it says it's still processing. Who testified? I wanted to show y'all at the Capitol during these past hearings regarding the bill that I was just talking about. And it just really dismisses the whole thing, because I don't know how Minnesota, and especially Black people in Minnesota, children in Minnesota, are safe when we have this type of shit going on, or stuff going on. Sorry, because I know I'm streaming on YouTube. What is this? Now, let me actually, so y'all can really see, because you can't really, let me bring this up so you can really. Who is that? Y'all see this? That's her bestie, who is in charge, like the Minnesota peace officers, Minnesota Peace and Police. I don't know what it is, organization. You don't get enough respect for me to get the title right. He was actually supposed to prosecute Kim Potter, and then he stepped down, and now they doing panels together, y'all. They're doing events. I mean, it's just crazy to see her there smiling, okay, knowing that she unalived Dante Wright for no reason. She can claim whatever she wants to claim. And though that it's that easy. Oh, this is actually something else that I was going to talk about, but it's that fact that it's just that easy, to just hop back right out there. Like, so many people who, end up in prison or whatever for things that aren't even this extreme, can't even just go back out in the real world. And if you're chiming in right now, make sure you drop down in the chat, say where you're chiming in from, share the live. That's your way to enter to win a giveaway. Last week we gave away the Visa gift card. And so chime in, because you never know what we're going to give away. But as you could see, they are talking about the collaborative approach will help us all learn from the past and work together to create a safer profession and community. Ain't nothing about her safe. And the thing about I want to point out too is, you see this as law enforcement drive. But anyway, it's Law Enforcement Training Academy. Now, when she, thank you, sis. When she uh unalived Dante Wright, she was like a training supervisor. Um so the fact that she's even in a position to do any of the stuff again it's disgusting, and it's sickening for those. Like, I just put it, I minimized it. You can really see who I'm talking about here. So that's Kim Potter's Punk A. I wanted to say different words, which I can't say them on here. And so yeah, she's back in the training field. Okay, she's back. Keynote: a path to rebuilding, revitalizing, and integration. What? The only way to that all that makes sense is if she's not in the picture. Actually, none of these people. And I saw these fools at the hearing on Tuesday. Okay, it was a very heavy police, very triggering, traumatizing hearing. And of course, they all, of course, want prone restraint, which is crazy. It still does not make sense why they want to use prone restraint so bad. I said I'm gonna do a video. I've been vlogging a lot. It is, man, editing takes time. And I was like, I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna do a video called "The Top 10 Lies from the 2024 Legislative Session" because it's just amazing to me how they sit up there and just lie and lie and lie with such confidence. Like it's very triggering. Like I don't know if you guys have ever seen a hearing during the legislative session or anything like that, but it's very, very triggering, particularly in these when you have our students who came on Monday. You're talking about how traumatizing it is for them to have police in schools, and one young man not young man, one teen said, how he had been put in prone restraint when he was in fifth grade. And he was so triggered and traumatized from telling that story that he couldn't come back the next day and testify like he originally planned. You know what I mean? And so then when you see stuff like Kim Potter and how these people are just out here like la la la, and it was her bestie that got up there on that stand and was like, I really want student resource officers back in schools, but we don't because you don't care about people anyway. You don't give a dang on nothing about nobody. So, it's just, oh God, y'all, it's stressful. It really is. It's very stressful. It's very stressful. Okay, let's go into just a couple more of these because I actually really just want to get into our interview for today. And this is also why. This is also why, and y'all wonder why people don't want officers in schools. Look at this. And this ain't even got to do nothing with the school, but you want to build trust, and then we see stuff like this. We see stuff like this. Florida police officer resigns after he mistook a falling acorn. Come on, y'all, for gunshots and fired multiple rounds inside police car at an unarmed suspect. The man survived, but come on, an acorn. So you mean to tell me that as an officer, no, let me tell you something. I'm not an officer, and I know the difference between the sound of an acorn falling and a gunshot. I mean, gunshots are it's a very obvious sound. It's one of those sounds where you when you hear it, you just know. It's not the same as hearing what they call them, the firecrackers or whatever, and that type of popping noise. No, anytime I've really heard it, it's like, oh, yep, that's what that is. You know what I'm saying? So when you sit here and you wonder why these kids and people in general don't want police officers for schools, they barely want them in their neighborhoods, because of stuff like this. Okay, and the fact too that the officer was able to resign, okay, which means he probably took whatever it is, whatever payouts, whatever his stuff with him. Okay, he's not being held accountable. He's not being reprimanded. He pieced out before anything could happen. I hope that the person who was in that vehicle, now I don't know why they're in the vehicle or anything like that, but I hope that regardless that they sue them. Because let me tell you too, I'm not someone who just blindly advocates for anyone who's in the custody of police either. So I don't know, but this is ridiculous. No matter who it was, it could have been someone who, like I said, is unarmed. It could have been someone who's doing the worst. It could be someone who was doing nothing. When you come to Black folks, we can end up in a police car for whatever reason. So the fact that, again, same thing with Kim Potter, you don't know the difference between your weapon and a taser, which both are weapons, but I can't say the word that I want to say, the pow pow. Okay, you don't know the difference between your pow pow and your taser. Same thing, you don't know the difference between an acorn falling, okay, and a pow pow shot. Come on, man, come on. We can't play like this. And then y'all really wonder why students or people are saying they don't want SROs in schools. You know what I'm saying? And like it says here, I sadly have PTSD, so anytime I see an officer or hear pow pow shots, I panic. Exactly. When I pulled up to my son's school, I pulled up yesterday to pick him up, and I saw two police officers, and these are police officer vehicles, and these are vehicles that are affiliated with SPPS, or really, I don't know if they were officer vehicles or if they were security. I honestly really don't know. But the fact that I saw him was like, it was immediately like, what's going on here? And I've seen them plenty of times, but every time there's something that goes through my body, I'm like, because they ain't never there when something really happens. They ain't never there when something really happens. And I know I told y'all I didn't want to make this super deep, you know what I mean? But there's just so much, going on that we have to talk about. But yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And um, I had another thing here that I feel like had to do with the police. Oh, it was this. This doesn't have to do with the police, but it does have to do with our schools. And again, this is also something that not gonna lie to you, I did not take the time to really read all this, because sometimes it just be ridiculous. I'm like, I'm not even gonna waste my time reading it. But okay, let me minimize this so you guys can really see. So it says elementary school principal placed on leave after she held a fake school power drill where she pretended to pow students with her fingers and banged on windows, reportedly told a student, boom, you're unalive. Y'all, now I done been in through enough. Let me actually break this down even further. First of all, it is extremely traumatizing to even go through one of these type of things. Sorry, y'all can see the cloud convert things kind of blocking the thing. But just as an educator who has been in one of these, a lockdown drill, and also an educator has been in a drill, and it wasn't even a drill at that point, when actual shots were heard, and just how fast that whole thing moves, and how a lot of the stuff, there are definitely things that you remember, and that's why it's so important. I was fortunately by my office, and I ran in my office, but actually I was going to the library. I think the doors were locked, and I remember that fortunately I had my office unlocked and I was able to get in there. But the trauma of just thinking about, one, we didn't know what was really happening. We didn't know if someone was in the building or if someone was outside the building. My son was at the school, but he was in a different classroom, so I couldn't even get to him. And then I had a student with me who I had to basically kind of act like it wasn't happening. They had different issues and things going on, so I didn't want to put them in any type of panic, but I also had to be safe, and I couldn't be loud. I couldn't, just that, all of that alone. Okay. And I've been through it when it was a drill, and then in a real life like situation. And just talking about it now, it brings up something in my body, because we didn't know how that was going to end. So to think like I said, but we knew what to do because of a drill that had nothing to do with what she was doing. Why would you go? Exactly. That's creating trauma. Why would you go and bang on the windows? Take ooh, I can't even say it. I can't imagine looking at a child and going, boom, you're what? What? Now, like I said, I did not look into this. I'm not gonna look into it. It's really not even, I don't need to really look into it, because this is just about the ridiculous of this. And I can't imagine what would make her think that that was a good idea. Like I said, we've done those drills. We didn't need to do all that. You know what I mean? We didn't. The point of the drill is not to terrify the children. Okay. It's not, it's so that everybody, and really staff, if we're being clear, knows what to do, knows that when, and I could remind you, y'all, when this happened, like in a real time thing for us at the school, like I could barely hear over the intercom that we needed to go into lockdown. I can't even remember. I remember hearing something and seeing everyone moving really fast and be like, what happened? And saying, then telling me, and me going in the same mode. It was the same mode I remember being in when a coworker had a heart attack at my job and actually passed away. Child, we could talk about that a different day. You know what? I'm gonna write that down as one of my story times. Because I really haven't talked about that. Whew, gosh. And I remember I was CPR training, so they came and got me. And I remember I was just in this really weird zone. I don't know if y'all ever been in one of those situations, whether you're in a situation where maybe there's a threat of violence, or just traumatic situations where you just kind of almost have like an outer body experience. That's what it felt. I remember just like, yes, 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 you were there. I remember just, it was like being in the twilight zone, like something just came over me and I just kind of was in this zone. And that's the same way I was when this happened. I think it's kind of like this focus zone almost. Like I don't have time to even react, be emotional. I just had to go into survival mode. Um, and so that's how I felt when this happened in the schools. So to see that this teacher did that is just like, what? I just can't, I just don't understand why you should, honestly, you should be ashamed of yourself. Honestly, I don't know the teacher's name. I don't know nothing. I don't know. It could have been a principal they said here who did this. But it's a dang on shame. So, real quickly before we hop into our interview, okay, with Alex, the, love engineer. Okay, we're talking about her self-love challenge that she's been doing this month. What makes relationships last, love languages, and we talk a little bit about Usher and Alicia Keys and all the unnecessary controversy regarding that. But there is some, between Beyonce, going to like our celebrity kind of portion of this, between Beyonce, a country music album, and people being all mad about that because they always mad at Beyonce, between uh Monique and all the stuff going on with her son, and just I'm just so tired of Monique and just a lot. I believe every things that she was saying about other stuff, but when it comes to putting your own child on blast, like he's Oprah Tyler Perry, that just really says a lot about you, and not even about him. But this, okay, I was going to talk about all the other stuff, but I really want to get to the interview. I just want to say something really quickly. I saw some people. Now, it's kind of, you can't really see what it says here. So let me try to bring that up a little bit. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, so y'all can really see what I'm talking about here. So as you can see here, Boosie, Boosie is the culture's misogynist, homophobic, like leader for people who subscribe to that type of stuff. I don't, so y'all are rarely gonna see me talk about Boosie on here. But I want to talk about something real quick because so Boosie made this post and he said if R. Kelly wouldn't have gotten in trouble, went to prison. Okay, if R. Kelly wasn't a whole actual uh predator, okay, pedophile, okay, ends with ape and starts with R, then he wouldn't. Like, let's be clear. Just saying he just got in trouble like he's in school or something. No, and it's just another way to dismiss and downplay everything that he did. But it says if R. Kelly wouldn't have gotten in trouble, his songs would be amazing at a Super Bowl halftime show. Let's just stop. Let's say we're not talking about all the things I just said that R. Kelly. What is he going to do at the Super Bowl that's going to have people up in their chairs and dancing? What's he going? He don't have enough up tempo music in the first place. Okay, so let's just put that there. And also, I don't believe that if he had not gotten in trouble, that he actually would be at the Super Bowl. Because y'all see a Super Bowl be getting all up in arms if they think there's anything that doesn't look quote unquote family oriented happening. Um, and so even if he hadn't, I don't believe that he would have been able to get up on there because all of the stuff would have come out anyway, the stuff that people knew prior to the documentaries coming out. You're gonna have this, oh, he was, accused of this and this and that. Like, it's one thing for him to go on and live within the culture, but we're talking about white people here. So anyway, then he goes on to say, I can hear that voice now. I believe I can fly, step in the name of love. I wish you see all these slow songs, the world's greatest slow, Fiesta Fiesta, mid-tempo. When a woman love, what are you talking about? Same girl. And then bring Usher. First of all, it's just an insult to Usher. Let me just say this. Because I saw some people who said, well, what's wrong with what he said? It's true. R. Kelly would have been, no, he wouldn't have. But I think the reason, and it's crazy that people somehow don't pick this up, but if people are mad or upset, it's because why are we bringing him up at all? Why are we bringing R. Kelly up at all? Now, I'm bringing this up just to say just how ridiculous I think it is that people don't pick up on that point of the fact that why are we bringing him up at all as someone who deserves a second chance, deserves to be on this stage. There are plenty of artists you could think of that have not done the cruel, disgusting things that he has done and the reason why he deserves to be where he's at. But this is who you like, it's amazing to me. And then y'all be wondering why, like we say, why women don't come out and tell their stories because you still sitting here trying to uplift this man. What is this? Like, and the thing for me, I'm not a Boosie fan. I don't think he adds anything to the culture besides misogyny and homophobia and all these things that I'm against. So again, I usually don't even pay him any mind. But it surprised me when I saw certain people talking about it and saying that they didn't understand what the big deal was, because I was like, what I don't really get. And I thought about jumping down some folks like multiple statuses and comments, but then I was like, what's for? I'm gonna do like Beyonce does and actually talk on my show that is a monetized page and share my opinion and get paid for it. But it's just, why are we bringing him up? Period. He shouldn't be brought up. The only way he should be brought up is if we're talking about what to look for, what signs to look for. You know what I mean? We're talking to young women, or if we're talking about maybe he has an upcoming court date or something like that. But as far as saying anything, but as far as saying anything that, still puts this man, in any type of positive light, is just insane, and it's disgusting to me. And it really bothers me that we are just so backwards, and can be so backwards when it comes to anything that has to do with um sexual abuse or someone being a predator, because it doesn't make how do you not see? I don't To me, it's a no-brainer why people are pissed off and upset that he said that, because we shouldn't be giving no like to this man any type of positive manner, and acting as if he didn't do what he did. That's why people feel away. It's not because of just whatever, or just as a general performer he wouldn't be able to deliver. No, we don't want to see his ass nowhere where he's at. You shouldn't be. I mean, that's almost like, no. I was gonna go into an example, but I know the way that some people feel about OJ is a little different than how I feel about it too. But then nobody asked OJ to come back and do no more football. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't out there even after he got acquitted. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it just don't make any sense. Boosie says a lot of stuff that I don't agree with anyway. I think he does a lot of projecting, but that's my own opinion, because the way he really is so bothered by people and their sexuality. Mm, I don't know. But so I just had to put my little 2 cents on that, because that really irritated me. And I was like, what you mean? The whole thing is, screw whatever songs he's had. Even if he wasn't in prison, he still wouldn't make a good choice. But also, why are we even sitting here speaking about him in any type of positive light? Period. He shouldn't be being brought up. Period. Plenty of other people that could rock that stage, and he, prison or not, ain't one of them. So let's move on, okay, to our actual feature for today. So like I said, we have my friend of the show and the love engineer herself, Miss Alex Meritt. Okay, Miss Alex Meritt and I actually sat down the other day for an interview. I'm gonna look a little crazy here on the screen because that's just how it looks right now until I hit play. But we talked about, she looks cool. I look like, I don't know, like I'm having a moment. Actually, I probably was having a moment. But she has a new self-love challenge, and it's actually like a calendar. Not a calendar, but she's been putting up like a calendar and has different things that you can do each day to really make sure that you're practicing your self-love, practicing even just speaking kind and nice to yourself. I know I can go down the rabbit hole and just really say a lot of dumb, not, well, yeah, not dumb, but just not nice things to myself about myself. And it's something that I've really been working on as far as getting out of that. So we're going to go ahead and get into our featured interview with the love engineer, Alex Merritt. Tune into Miss Margaret live in the morning, as you know. But if you're just tuning in, I'm your host, Miss Margaret. And I actually have a friend of the Miss Margaret live show. She came on Miss Margaret live when I was like KFI. I want to say like 2018, 2019, somewhere around there. At the time, it was new. She had her card game. We're gonna talk about that in just a second. And I used that card game, but I used it a couple times. But so, as you can see here in the title, I have Alex Merritt. Well, she just has Alex. So I'm like, you want me to say your whole name? The love engineer. Welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me back. This is fun. This is super fun. That's right. It's been a while.
It's been years. It's been years. Well, we had a lot going on too in Minnesota, because it's like right after you came on was the pandemic, and then we had everything that happened. Yeah, so it's just like, yeah, and then I left the station. That was a thing. So and then that was a thing. We'll talk about that different day. And then I was on some other outlets and stuff like that. But now I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I just want to be able to do my own thing. And I want to be able to do it where I don't have to worry about, you know what I mean, just all the other stuff that goes into doing radio. And I was on AMP radio at one point, Amazon's thing, but then they shut that down. Like literally, like the day before I had announced that my show was gonna be on there, they put like an Instagram post saying we're basically like dwindling down the software.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. So I said, let me try my hand at this. And it's actually been working out. So I'm glad to have you back as someone who came on back when I was doing all the stuff I just talked about. And we both have done so much since then. So for those though who aren't familiar with you, even though you've been on, like, I've seen you on WCCO, actually, I've seen you on there a few times. For those who don't know who you are, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
So I'm the love engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer by background. My whole mission is to bring logic to love, as I like to say, so that we can learn how to love, be loved, and build amazing relationships. Like that is my whole heart. So, in essence, that's my buddy. Like to make it make sense, so that again we have the tools we need to be able to have great relationships.
Some people might miss the part where you said you were an actual engineer. Like I can't not talk about that because I remember when you came on the show and you were talking about how just so few women, there's so few women in your field. And how, and not even just that, but just how women were overlooked and unrecognized also within the field as well. How has that changed, if any, since, I guess, what was that, 2019, we'll say, 2018, 19 to now?
It unfortunately probably, so the field of engineering is still very male dominated. I have a mechanical engineering degree, which is also still very male dominated. I think I just looked at some stats recently, and I think less than 2% of the mechanical engineering degree holders in the nation are Black women, first and foremost. So we are definitely a rare breed in that regard. And so there's a lot of work being done. The National Society of Black Engineers is still doing a lot of work to increase the number of Black engineers, but it is still a gap. And it's also one of the things where it's near and dear to my heart is to increase the number of people who have STEM backgrounds, because I just believe if we got more people who know how to solve problems, the world is a better place.
Okay. People know how to solve them, not add to them. Different conversation for a different day.
Indeed.
So, of course, what I was thinking about, like my February episodes, whenever I hit you up about this, I don't remember when this was now, but I was like, you were actually the first person that came to mind, because I was like, I want to do something in the theme of love. I was like, I want to do something kind of different though, too. Like, I was like, how can we have this conversation, but make it just a little different. And so when I saw your self-love challenge, I was like, see, I knew I picked the right person, because this is perfect. And, like there's so much about this time of year. So many people are feeling bad, you know what I mean? So they don't have a Valentine. Some people are feeling great because they have one. Some people are feeling great. They don't have one, but they're still feeling good because they are on the journey that we're about to talk about. So, tell the people, what is the self-love challenge, and why do you think, and I have my own answers, but to this second question, why do you think it is or can be a challenge for people to love themselves?
Yeah, no, so great question. The self-love challenge is exactly as it says. It's just an opportunity to love on yourself, because so often we take ourselves for granted. We just kind of go through life without ever stopping to appreciate. Because like when you look at who you are, literally, there's so much to love, so much to marvel at, so much to appreciate if we would only stop to do that for ourselves. And the reason why I think so many people don't is because nobody bothered to teach it to us. Like nobody bothered to teach, we make love something that's outside of us, and we make it something to get, which is how come it's this constant do I have a person? Do I have a this? Do I have, and all of that has its place and it's wonderful. But if it's your own, if the only person who can tell you they love you is somebody else, and you don't realize that, again, if you say it to yourself, it'll feel similar.
Mm-hmm.
Then that way you get to not go, you don't have to go without love because there's not an external person. More than that, you don't have to make them love you like you think you want to be loved. You can actually do that for yourself.
You just said a whole bunch of sound bites. I was sitting here listening to you think I'm taking that clip and that clip. Because right, I mean, like you're saying, so often people are looking for someone else to make them feel love, or trying to mold someone into making them, love you like you want to be loved. And that's one of the things that I'm not saying like I'm an expert in it. Okay. I'm just saying over time I am learning that, right? You know what I mean? You have to love yourself. And it's not even someone's
Literally.
responsibility necessarily to like complete you. It should like, could compliment you, right? But you can't rely on
Right.
another human being, to do that. Throughout like your life, because I want to get to how you came up with this, how you decided to do this month. But you talked about something too, is like oftentimes we're just not taught that. We're not like, I don't remember when I was a kid or whatever, no one said the word self love, or like self-care, or there were certain, it was more, I would say, I was fortunate to one, have women, my mom, my aunt, women in my life who were, it was more like about, maybe, I don't know how to put it. It wasn't direct conversations. You know what I mean? Maybe it was certain things that they made sure that I was in, people I was around, the way that I was treated, where it was like, okay, you are valuable, stuff like that. But it still wasn't those words, you know what I mean? Of
Right,
just like,
right,
what
right.
does it mean to love yourself? So for you growing up and stuff like that, were there those conversations? How did you kind of learn about, self-love, self-care, all that type of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I grew up in foster care. So I did, it was quite contrary. And that's, so I grew up in foster care, was later adopted, started dating like many people start doing. And I just remember dating a gentleman who was amazing to me. But I remember we were supposed to get married in May 2003. It was a whole thing. And I just remember being like, but I don't feel loved. Not because I wasn't being loved. I just didn't feel it. I was like, I don't think this is how it's supposed to feel. Like, I'm sure I could marry this gentleman and everybody
Mhm.
around me would have been happy and thrilled about it. Right. I'm in college, all this. Anyway, I stumbled across a quote from the Persian poet Rumi that changed my life. And that would be the basis for everything I do as a love engineer today. And the quote just simply said, your task is not to seek for love, but to seek
Mm.
within and remove all the barriers you've built against it.
Wait, say that again. Say it again, because I was thinking soundbite again in my head. So say it again. Make
Your
sure.
your task is not to seek for love, but to seek
Mhm.
within and remove all the barriers you've built against it.
Mm. Woo, girl. Now that's a word. I didn't expect you to take me to church. I didn't expect you to take me to
Yeah,
church. And this
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
that
So
a
then that
word?
would become the journey of why self-love became important. Then I started taking myself on dates and
Wow.
doing all this other stuff. And then to my surprise, sure enough, you can feel
Hmm.
all the love that you believe that you can feel from somebody else. Because that, like I said, that was my thing where it was like I had the bear, the gifts, the trip, all of that stuff. He was an amazing man. I just
Hmm.
couldn't feel it. And it was like, oh, it's because I had blocked it. And because, all these
Hmm.
other things. And so starting this own journey of being able to connect to it. So then now it's not foreign to me when
Yeah.
somebody's loving me.
Mm.
And
Do you
so
feel
that's where the internal journey comes into play.
do you feel too that it helped also to be like, this is not love? You know what I mean? It easier to be like, now that I know how to love myself, even my boundaries are different, or, certain things that I allow in my life. Did you feel like there were certain changes too in the people that you surrounded yourself with after you really got on your journey of loving yourself and knowing what that feels like?
I guess in theory, yes, in the sense just because again, as you change, everything around you changes. Like it's like
Yeah.
what you attract changes just because of who you are. So because I've always had a pretty pretty good radar of like who could or could not be in my world. But what's interesting about it is that how long I let you stay is what changed.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
because
yeah.
now it didn't, there wasn't a sense of like, oh my God, if I'm not in a relationship, then that must mean something's wrong. Or it's like, no, like this just isn't, we're just not going forward any further
Mhm.
than this point. And I can let that go, knowing that I don't lose love. I may lose the experience of love with you, but I don't lose love. There's a piece of art that's hanging in my bathroom, but the title is called With or Without You.
Mm,
And that's the
mhm.
whole premise. It's like with or without you, I will be loved.
Yeah,
And that's a
yeah.
little bit of a bold statement, but it's the reality. It's like if love is the basis, then
Mhm.
with you I will be loved, without you I'll be loved. And so therefore, if we decide that we aren't going to be together, that's fair and fine, but I don't lose love. So therefore I don't hold you hostage either,
Yeah, see,
because I'm afraid of losing love.
yes, I can relate to that so much because I know that I have allowed people to overstay, knowing that it wasn't, because of that, because of more of the loss of the
Yeah.
feeling, the loss of all that. When by the time, and then I feel like sometimes too, then you just set yourself up for it to just get taken care of because usually just kind of blows up in your face. It ends
Right.
up being an uglier type of thing split than if you would have just gone with that gut, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And known that no, you're not losing love. Yeah, you're losing this, but you're not losing love because you already have
Yep.
that in you. Yeah, I need to hear
Yeah.
that.
That's
I definitely
good.
needed to hear that. Yes, that's why you're
Well,
here.
there you have it. There
Right.
you have it.
So, what does this self-love challenge look like? I've seen you putting this stuff up on Facebook and stuff. I've seen the calendar, but what does it look like? What type of like activities and stuff are on there, or messages, whatever it is that helping people on that self-love journey?
Yeah, the big thing is really just around the intentionality of
Mm,
loving oneself. So, like bringing attention. And so, some of it is doing things that you ordinarily do. And so, whether it's looking in the mirror and telling yourself, I love you, like you'd be surprised at how hard that is for people.
yeah.
To grab your own eyes and be like, I love you. Like, I really do
Mhm,
love you, and
mhm,
sharing why. Or, as you're going about your day, and today is about doing a facial, wherever. Like many people do facials any day and every day, but it's bringing
mhm.
the intention and the expression that I'm doing this as an act of love,
Yeah.
as an act of care. Because again, a lot of the things that we do or that people do for us that say I love, that we interpret I love you, you can do them
Mhm.
for yourself. So it's write letters, take a walk. There's quite a few deals, because the idea is like it doesn't have to necessarily be an activity. It's more of an intention.
Yeah, yeah. I like that because a lot of times, I feel like with any, whether it's a challenge like this, or whether it's a cleanse, or whether it's a lot of times you really do have to focus on that intention, because sometimes we focus on, dang, I missed this day, then it's, you can go
And
down
then
the
you
rabbit
beat yourself
hole.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. You go down the
And it's
rabbit
anything but loving. And so that's the thing I do. So it's like this is not about did I do all the things. It's do I
hole.
have the right mind and heart as I'm doing the thing. And that thing could be waking up, putting my feet on
Right.
the floor. It could be there's a number of ways to express love to myself. And one of them is again, how do I speak to myself?
Oh, so let's go into there. Because actually my previous guest, Dr. Raquel Martin, I think I remember one time you posted one of her videos. I was like, that's my friend. It was like random. It was a random reel that she did. But she was talking about how the conferences, I think it was engineering conferences are the places really to meet men.
Oh
We
yes,
could talk.
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, so that's my friend from college. So she was actually on a previous episode. The
Oh, you got to
basketball.
put me in touch. I want to talk to her. She's fantastic. Yes.
Oh, for sure. We could definitely hook that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's amazing. And so we were talking about that, and just like the ways that we talk to ourselves, and how much that impacts us. And I was saying how I just kind of in this past year really try to like hone in on that. You know what I mean? And I think I was asking her too, like, what do you say to people, advice and stuff when it comes to that and how we talk to ourselves, how to shift that language? What are some of the things I'm sure people probably have asked you, about this before? What do you tell people how to really shift that mindset and how to catch yourself when you're in that moment and be like, we're not going there.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think one of them is one to realize that the voice that is often in our head is not our voice, right? Many of us grew up with critical parents, critical moms, critical somebody who condemned, criticized, or verbally, assaulted you on a regular basis. It became a normal for many of us. And so then you internalize that thinking, I'm gonna do it first to myself. And so it really is just that. It's like, think about how would
Mm.
you want the person that loves you to talk to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
How would you
Mhm.
want the person that loves you to respond if you make a mistake? And now
Mhm.
you are the person. It's the difference is that you are now that
Mm.
person, and seeing yourself just as that is realizing that I am the person that now responds when I make a mistake. And
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
I how do I do I what how would I want to be treated versus how was I treated? Because oftentimes what we're running is the way that somebody handled us when we did make mistakes, and so that's the only narrative we know, and we just have to be willing to break that. And it starts with little things. It's like one, when you catch yourself like, oh my god, I'm so stupid. It's like, ooh, but I'm not
Mhm.
actually.
Right.
I'm trying, I'm learning, I'm growing, or I don't have to keep beating up on myself because somebody beat up on me for a long time. You don't have to keep doing that. I think that's the pieces we got to realize now. Now we are the parents that have to reparent the inner version of us.
Right, because so much of that inner child is still healing. And I feel like for me, I feel like a lot of that kind of negative voice that can be in my head stems a lot from like things that I started to feel when I was like in school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, junior high, high school, when you really start, and the things that more so people say, not necessarily in my household, but what other people might start making me feel like, oh, I'm not this and that. Can you hear that blender, by the way?
Mm-mm.
Okay, good. So,
I can't.
okay, good. Because sometimes I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna cut that out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of times too, um, you start off, one way you're growing up, and then oftentimes then you go out in the world, and you start hearing all these opinions, and you start, if you hear it enough, you start believing that it's true.
True.
And I've learned
True.
that that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times, especially in those younger years and
Mhm.
stuff, where everybody is trying to figure themselves out, and oftentimes figuring themselves out can mean, taking stuff out and projecting on other people. I know that now. I didn't know that when I was
Right.
12. Most people don't.
And you
Um,
wouldn't have known it when you were 12. You would not have known that. And there's no way for you to have known it. And so now that you're an adult, you're like, now I do know. I will, learn better, do better, kind of a deal. Like I said, it doesn't get me wrong. It's not that it's easy, but it's like it's worth it.
Right, right, exactly. And it's so crazy. Like I'm 36 now, and so many of the things that I've unpacked in these past years, that I didn't even realize that I needed to unpack. But and also though, to your point, right? It's like I can't also like beat myself up because I didn't know that stuff back then. There was no way, like no one, I wouldn't even probably even really been able to process, like, you know what I mean? That back then. It's just
Yeah. So
not.
so now what I tell people is when something new comes up, celebrate. Be
Mhm.
like, yay, I now see this.
I've
And go
had
on
that
about
moment.
your day. Yay. Like, oh, good. I now see it. And I can go
Mhm.
forward from it. Not the why didn't I know it before? That I mean, because again, like I said, that's an interesting narrative, but it's one that has been planted. Uh,
Right.
it's like, or oh my God, look what I just learned today,
Mhm. Yeah.
and go forward from there.
And it's always great, I think, too, when even though you have those moments and sometimes it can be difficult, it's always great, I feel, when you realize though, like, I because this happened and now I know I have this tool and I use the tool, I can see that growth. You know what I mean? Like I love when I
Yep.
have moments,
Yep.
or even if it's difficult, where I can be like, but I can see that work I've been doing, it's been
But I'm
working. I'm not that
growing. But
same
I'm
person.
growing. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I'm growing.
Yeah,
I'm growing.
but I'm growing
There.
here. And I think the other thing is to with the self-love challenge that I will add is like is it doesn't mean that I gotta be because again, like I said, if you're not careful, it also becomes a thing of I have to get this right or get perfect before I can. It's like, no, you can also still love and have somebody else loving you at the same time. So these are not exclusive. So that's probably the other thing that I want to tell that I do want to share with people. Like this whole messaging and this mantra that we're teaching people about, like, you got to do this first before you're worthy of a relationship. That's not true. That's not
Yeah.
true at all. You can be learning to love yourself and be in a great relationship with someone as they love you and teach you how to love them and vice versa. So they're not exclusive. So you ain't got to get perfect at this before you're worthy of that.
Oh, man, I just was not expecting you to be dropping all that was pertaining to my life because I remember my one of my best friends, another friend from college. We were all like in the same clique.
What college was this? What college did I go to?
Right, Fisk University.
Oh, Fisk. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to the HBCUs. And so
Yes,
I
yes.
remember this past summer, or maybe it was last spring, I was talking about someone who was like asking me, I don't remember what it was. And I was just kind of like, oh, I'm like, I don't know, like I'm trying to work on this and this and that. And she was like, yeah, but you can still go on a date. Like you can still, and I'm like, I don't know. It's like, you are frustrating me. That's exactly what she said. You are frustrating me right now because you do not have to do exactly what you're saying. You do not have to be like just this. Okay, now I got this. I got it all. Whatever. Now I can open myself up because it is a journey. And she's like, you can still date and get to know people and have fun. Like, don't close yourself off. You know what I mean? While you are still at this point where you're like growing, and it doesn't mean that dating means that it has to be a distraction from that either. Because I feel like that's how I was also, it was more like a fear of if I start dating, I embark on a relationship, I'm going to lose this. You know what I mean? And not feel as maybe committed or necessary to continue this work. Like those were the thoughts that I had at that time. So I resonate so much with you saying that because, yeah, my friend had to like being me in a loving way.
Yeah, and it's like, don't like because again, if not, then self-love, self-care, all of this becomes just a convenient way to hide
Right. Yeah.
from connecting to somebody. Because you will not learn, and I tell people all the time, like you learn more than you're ever going to learn in a relationship with somebody else. You want to learn something about you, get into a relationship with anybody, friends, it doesn't matter. Like relationships, I think, are our best classroom, and the person you're in it with is like the greatest teacher.
That's so true. Because I learned something about myself recently when I was dating someone this past summer that
Absolutely.
I feel like maybe we both had things. I feel like we came into each other's lives for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because there were
and
things
we all
that
do.
yeah, I didn't know, I didn't recognize then, and then that set me up on another path, and another type of work. And then now I can recognize certain things, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I feel even better, like going into another
Mm-hmm.
relationship. But right, I would not, I hadn't been able to really identify it or whatever until that, and you know what I mean, until that was brought out from that. So that's true. You do, yeah, yeah, you do. Look, now I'm
Relationships
thinking
are our
that.
greatest teacher. They're our
Look, now
greatest
I'm
teacher.
thinking
We
of that
learn so much
fool.
from relationships.
Look, I zoned out for a minute because I was like, okay. But anyway, thank you. Next.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
another thing I want to talk about, you had an event not too long ago. And you had it was a panel basically of couples
Mm-hmm.
here from the Twin Cities, black couples, right? It was
Yeah,
all black couples, I think,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Here in the Twin Cities, and you were talking about basically these were couples who have been together for a long time, y'all. Some people that
Mm-hmm.
I know who have been together for a long time, and the whole thing with they were talking about basically how do they make it work? How do they make it last? And I thought that was really, really dope concept because that's something that everybody, no, people usually don't get relationships and be like, this may, the whole point is you kind of want it to last, or you think it's gonna last. So I want to talk about what
Right.
inspired that conversation, and what were some of the things that came up in that discussion.
Yeah, so I think as the love engineer, and like and dessert discussion was is my first baby. It's like I just love bringing again us together to talk about love, sex, relationship, and how to make them work. And so dessert discussion, the love seat, for those are usually always super provocative, and wanted to be able to again to have a place for people to learn and grow about them, and because we have so many misunderstandings about relationships that last. Like for people who are not in long-term relationships, it's this magical place and space of what does it take and how does it work. And so I wanted them to be able to share kind of the truth of that so that
Mm,
people realize that it's like one, you can do it. Two, it may come with its own set of challenges, but it doesn't just it's not just happily ever after. That's not the way that works.
right.
You actually have
Mhm.
to work at it to be able to keep it going. So that was what inspired it, is just to shed a little bit of truth to what makes it last versus the fairy tale that we talk about.
Yeah, because sometimes when I see people, I'm like, ain't no way all these years later, y'all doing certain things every day, or like everything just feeling like the first time you laid eyes on them. And I think sometimes people do have those unrealistic expectations that if it doesn't feel like that in this moment, then it's over. It's,
Yeah.
whatever. And that's not even how humans work, period.
Under any conditions or relationships, we do have this belief, and I tell people all the time, it's like relationships are like a shower. No matter how great of one you take today, you'll have to do that again. And
Right.
so this notion that if I take the best shower today, then I'll never have to do it again. If I get the best person, if I get the best relationship, if I get the best, then I won't. Then it's gonna be fix it and forget it. It's like no, relationships are living things, and living things get funky unless you keep them maintained. And so relationships no different.
I like that, because that is so true. Right. You still got to do it. You still got to do the work. You still got to do the maintenance, whatever it
Every
is,
day.
every
Every
day.
day. It's not
Mhm.
you don't get to say it's always going to be a growth and an understanding and a learning. And if people accept that, then it becomes easier. I think happen like I said, most of the challenges people expect it not to be. So then when it shows up, we're like, oh my God, there must be something wrong. And it's like, no, there's nothing wrong.
Right.
You just can't
Mhm.
take a shower and stay clean for 2 months. That's not the way that works.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's and both people have to definitely be committed to the work. You know what I mean? Committed to thinking that it's worthwhile, and not just like
Yeah.
you said, like right now it ain't all whatever. So I'm gonna peace out. Remembering why you even got together in the first place,
Yeah.
and committing to doing that work. So I'm definitely gonna have to catch the next one. I definitely got to catch the next one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Before I let you go, I'm like getting this done like right on time too. Okay. I mean, I'm going a little, I'm gonna get to where I gotta go. Because I was like, we gotta have this conversation. Initially I was gonna start the conversation off with this, but I had to get into the self-love challenge. I wanted to make sure we really talked about, because that's really the important part here. This part is just kind of more like you just girl talking or whatever. Because all week people have been up in arms about Usher's performance, not really for the reasons that they should be talking about it, but they've been really specifically getting on Alicia Keys about the performance, the halftime show when she came out, and they did the whole Mabu, little 2-second segment. Okay. And people got all up in arms and were saying that, Alicia Keys was being, disrespectful and all these type of things to her husband's was beats. He eventually made a post saying, y'all focusing on the wrong stuff, blah, blah, blah. But the internet is the
Right.
internet. So there were still people saying their things. It was kind of divided. There were those who were saying, dude, like they're performers. Like it's really not that deep. Then there were those who were saying, I don't give a damn, performance or not. That was too much. They were too close, a little too intimate. I, for me, I looked at it more of the earlier part, you know what I mean? Of they're both married now, actually. Usher just got married. They're
Yeah.
performers. I will say, I will say, when I was watching it live, I was kind of like, oh. okay. But the thought didn't really go past, I was like, it's Usher, Alicia, she performing, even if she is kind of like, whatever. It's the performance and not whatever. But, everybody has opinions. So what did you think, particularly especially as a love engineer? What did you think about it and all the controversy?
I think that the two things that show up there is one, what are the conditions, what did the people in the relationship say about it? So like I said, so when Swiss Beats thing came out, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because again, really all that matters is what is okay for you two.
Right.
And
exactly.
so as long as you two are okay with it, that's perfect. But I think it's also a great analogy of what happens in the real world is everybody has an opinion, but their opinion actually isn't about you. Their opinion is about what is okay for them.
There you go.
They are projecting it onto you, but it's like all. So I've seen all the comments, but really, if you read it all with the term of, "Hey, I wouldn't be okay with my partner doing this with another person," or "I wouldn't." That's all that's actually saying because the people involved are like, "It's okay for us."
Mm-hmm.
And so just realize that everybody's going to have an opinion, and it may be different than yours. But you just got to be clear about what is okay for you and be okay with that. So that's how I felt about it. Like I thought it was fine. I'm fine with it because they're fine with it.
Right. Exactly.
Like that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. For me personally, I also am fine with it from a lens of it's a performance. I'm okay with that. But everybody's not okay with that, and they don't have to be.
Right. And I think that's exactly a good point because it's like, for one, we act like there weren't rehearsals. This is rehearsed. I'm sure Swiss obviously was probably either there, saw whatever it was. And while for us it may seem shocking, for him it's not shocking. And I think that is so true. And I think that's just a perfect thing just to say about life really in general, right? You have to really just be okay with what you're doing or worried about, like you said, this is as long as the couple, right, is okay with it. Then it is what it is. And like you said, people are more so saying, right, well, I would have let mine. And I'm like, yeah, well, your wife and you are not Alicia Keys. So you're not gonna even be in that setting anyway. So if you're thinking of a setting of just your wife just at the club, you know what I'm saying?
And that's really what it is. That's what it is.
It's not the same, right? So you can't
people express their fears and their frustrations as they watch other people, which is why I like showcasing celebrities or because it's easy to say it, but what they don't realize is that they're actually just speaking their own truth about it.
You do a good job with that. And just before I let you go, I just want to kind of give you props because I had gone to a marketing class this past summer. And Shaletta Makes Me Laugh, Brundage.
Oh yeah.
WCCO.
Yeah, Brundage. She's fantastic. Yeah.
She's having that Black Entrepreneurs Day tomorrow at the Capitol.
Yeah.
I plan to pull up to. Anyway, but someone had asked something about, I don't even remember what it was actually, but basically they had a certain organization. She had said, well, did you see such and such, some articles, some that had come out? And it was like in relation to, I think the organization had to do with like helping like, young women, who have been through a lot of different things. And she was like, well, did you see this article that was about such and such? And did you write about it from your page? And they're like, well, no, I didn't. So she said, well, why didn't you? Because, that's you saying that, as such and such organization, we blah, 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 blah. And I see you do that sometimes with stuff like this. And I be like, smart. Because also too, people can relate, you know what I mean? People like, we're all seeing the same stuff, right? And so it can be also easier sometimes to even garner conversation when people can already see something, it's already like being talked about. They can relate to it and engage with it, but it's still a great way to get your point across and get your stance in just a marketing standpoint in the first, and I can't remember first place, second place, whatever. So
news jacking. Yep, news jack.
So I see you do that. And I'd be like, so if ever I put up, I haven't done my little article things in a while because it'd be a lot, okay? But whenever I start doing those again, if you see me put up one, feel free to take it, okay? and put your little two
Right,
cents.
right, right.
Because I'd be like, yeah,
Indeed,
follow me
indeed.
at
It's
work.
always fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so feel free because I'd be like, that's
will
smart.
do.
And marketing is everything that I have am now learning and stuff. And you've been really good at that. Like I said, with the game, I seen so many people have pictures with that damn card game. And I'm like, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. I saw you with the Drew Sidora. I saw that. I saw you. I know that's right. You could put out that card game. Okay, yeah, I
And
do.
it's funny because again, I'm getting ready to relaunch, but yes, that's the like. Tell me a little, and this is not about like, but I'm curious. So when you say you played the game, how have you played it, or when have you played it?
I
I'm just curious.
played it with someone I was dating at the time.
Okay.
And I also played in a group of people. It was like 3 guys, and I think it was just 2 of us girls.
Ooh.
So yeah, it was different. Yeah, I've done it 2 different ways. Actually, I was on a date and I like busted out the cards. I was like, hey, so here's this game. I think it'd be cool. But it was great. It didn't. I think the thing too is I wasn't sure how they were going to react, but they were not like uncomfortable with it. I felt like the questions. What was it? What did it say? It was like some or make a move or whatever. It was cute. You know, a little twist. So look, I'm getting all blushing thinking about. I can't talk about. We can't talk. I
Wait,
gotta talk about this different time. But
right, like
yes,
tell about get the game, the one love games, and everything. Yes, I'm glad to hear that. You like sweat, like oh my god,
put me on. But
love it,
so
love it,
yes,
love it.
everyone get the game, get the relaunch because it's actually fun, and you can play. Like I said, I played it on a date, but I also played it on like just a game night type of setting with men and women, and we had a good time. And it really just I mean, everyone had moments, and it was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's great. But thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for
Uh
having me.
I want to have you back for sure. I would love to have you back. Maybe
Mhm.
have some people ask questions, whatever the case is. Let the people know though where they can find you if they want to get in contact with you.
Yeah, you can find me at theloveengineer.com. So on my website there, and it'll take you to all the places. You can get the game there at theonelovegame.com or just go to theloveengineer.com. I'm at Alex Love Engineer on Instagram. You can find me at Alex Love Engineer on TikTok. You just Alex Meritt and or Dessert Discussion on Facebook. So
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank
thank
you all
you.
so much for tuning into Miss Margaret Live in the morning. I will see you next time, next Friday at 11 a.m. And don't forget, we're doing the live show on February 24th at Gravy Babies in St. Paul. It is the audacity to co-parent successfully with Alicia Price and her new book, It's Not Complicated. So I'll be doing the headlines. We're going to do a giveaway, going play games. We have comedian Bianca Denny who is hosting. So it's gonna be a mess in a good way. Okay. We're gonna act a fool up in there and talk about y'all baby daddies. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna talk about mine though. So anyway, so come out to the live show. Okay, February 24th, 2 p.m. Gravy Babies. There's no tickets necessarily. All you gotta do is what you would normally do if you come there. Buy a plate, buy something to drink, whatever it is. The proceeds go to my content studio. So it's a fundraiser. It's all in one. Okay. All right, y'all. Thank you, Alex. I'm
Sounds
gonna have
like
you stay
fun.
on after I click off of this just so we can make sure everything gets uploaded. All right. So anyway, tune in next
Love it.
time, y'all. Bye.